basically during pregnancy it's a immunocompromised stage because half of the fetus is is foreign, like it's coming from the paternal side. So she is prone to infection from anywhere. Okay, may it be from the respiratory tract, or the oral cavity is a very important site which may get missed as a focus of infection. So one susceptible place where they will reach is around the baby, which we call as the chorion, or we say chorion amnionitis, where the environment of the baby gets infected and there is secretion of chemicals which are called as prostaglandins, which cause uterine contractions.
Abhaya is Women Oral Health Initiative by Indian Dental Association. Our aim is to create the awareness of women dental health issue. On this 20th May, we are celebrating International Day of Action on Women's Health. So inviting all the dentists to join this campaign of Abhaya. Thank you. Welcome all. Abhaya is Women's Oral Health Initiative by Indian Dental Association. Our main aim is to create the awareness about oral health issues. Today we are running a campaign for Abhaya for International Day of Action on Women's Health. Here we are going to discuss about overall lifestyle choices and healthy habits that promotes women's overall health, including oral health, psychological health, sexual health and reproductive health. We have invited eminent speaker Dr. Deepali Prabhat. Dr. Deepali Prabhat is an obstetrician and a gynecologist, and she has an active practice more than 25 years. And along with this, she is lifestyle medicine specialist. So welcome Dr. Deepali Prabhat. So as we see the woman's life cycle starting from childhood, puberty, menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, healthy habits and lifestyle changes play a very crucial role. And it has been observed that as a dentist we have seen that during the childhood parental guidance is so crucial. We see if the parents teaches the kids oral healthy habits like the proper brushing technique, use of proper toothbrush, mouthwash, healthy habits, then good diet, that result into the healthy oral hygiene of a kid. But it has been seen that when daughter reaches to puberty, so there are less involvement of parental guidance in aspect of knowledge or information. So my first question to you, how can parents support daughters in developing healthy habits during the puberty?
Yeah, Meenakshi, as you rightly said, the basis of all healthy habits absolutely starts in childhood, and really the child has really no opinion on what he is going to eat, he or she is going to eat, and it's the parents who have to guide. And if that foundation is very strong in childhood, then it helps in transitioning into into puberty very well. So as far as girls are concerned, I think the knowledge about puberty is very important to the girl herself, as well as the parents have to be very aware of what things are to be expected at puberty. And as we know that puberty happens because of hormonal changes, there is rise in the estrogen levels in the girl's body, and it usually starts with breast development followed by appearance of hair in different body parts, and finally menarche or starting of menstruation is the final stage of achieving puberty, along with the growth in the height and the feminine body form, which is also because of estrogen, like the curves and all because of estrogen. So also all these changes can be very something very surprising to the child if she is not aware of it. So it's very important for the parents to build a positive body image around this time. And we know that the children, while they are young, are very obedient and listen to everything that the parents say, and once they are like in middle school, then the peers become very important. So what information they get from the peers seems to be more correct.
Yes, right.
And I
Yeah.
think what parents need to do is try to take every opportunity they get to discuss these things, give the children the correct information about the body changes that are to be expected. The other day I had a small girl, 9-year-old, the mother came with her having one side breast but developed,
Okay.
and there was little tenderness, and she was really worried whether is it anything abnormal. So it's very important that they know the different changes that happen in puberty, and proper healthy lifestyle in terms of proper diet, proper balanced diet, active lifestyle. Kids typically, once the academics increases, there is all the physical activity goes on a back burner.
Yeah.
They become more sedentary, and that causes weight gain. And further, already the hormones are changing, and this will fuel further disturbance in the hormones, and that is the time when we see conditions like PCOS
Yes,
coming
right.
in
Yes.
just after a few years of menarche.
Yes.
So I think it's very important that the healthy habits and also correct information to the girls have to be given.
So parental role is very important.
Very, very important.
Very important, yes.
About first they should get informed themselves, and they also can take help of the pediatrician or the gynecologist
Yeah.
to understand the information themselves, and maybe they can explain to the child. That becomes a little bit more scientific without attaching any shame or stigma, because that is something still in our society it's not accepted
right.
very
Yes.
well. So they should be well equipped to go into the world when they start college, where they have all that knowledge to protect their own reproductive health, as well as avoid any reproductive infections and those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Other thing I would like to add is around the puberty time, what we can give for prevention of cervical cancer is an HPV vaccine,
Right.
which we now give from the ages of 9 onwards, and that is a big tool to get primary protection against cervical cancer.
Okay.
So I think that is what adds
So,
puberty.
as a dentist in a dental practice, what we have seen during puberty, because of the estrogen and progesterone level, the female patient complains of like redness or bleeding gums, because of this hormonal changes. Now the next phase is a menstruation. So mainly the patient young girls complains of pain or discomfort during the period. So what I want, my next question, that how the dietary changes and exercise elevate the menstrual symptom, and about the importance of menstrual health also. We have to explain that.
Yeah. So I think our overall lifestyle choices make a big difference in what complaints that the girl would experience during the menstrual period. So we know about something called as PMS or premenstrual syndrome, and definitely it gets elevated if you have a good diet, in terms of eating more real food, which comes directly from nature with minimal processing, compared to ultra processed food which comes in boxes. Those have certain chemicals, preservatives, which are hormone disruptors, and they can disrupt the hormones and increase the menstrual cyclical pains. Exercise, of course, will definitely reduce the dysmenorrhea or pain during menstrual cycle. And though we don't advise heavy exercise during the menstrual period, but if the woman is or the girl is very active rest of the period in terms of good combination of aerobic exercises, some strength training, then that will reduce the pains during the menses. Also, it's a myth that during menstrual cycle the woman should not be physically active at all. Light exercises, some flexibility, some things like yoga can be definitely done, and that itself will also reduce the menstrual pain. So both these things are very, very important for taking care of menstruation. As far as the menstrual hygiene is concerned, of course, most of the girls now in school are informed about the different products that are available to them, maybe a reusable pad or a disposable pad or a menstrual cup, which will of
Yeah.
course it'll, I mean, what is favorable to that person can be used. It's very important to change these products frequently to maintain the hygiene, the general hygiene, along with the hygiene of the private parts also has to be kept very well. And also I think it's very important to educate these girls about sexuality as well, and sexual health, and safe sex practices, about consent.
Yes.
And all these things are, you know, important at this age, because we don't realize that we see children are much more sexually active at an early age now, compared to what, you know, maybe 3-4 decades back. We are slowly catching up with the West, and we need to equip our children with all this knowledge. So knowledge about barrier contraception and everything, we have to provide them with the knowledge and make it like a healthy conversation.
Absolutely.
In the family, and
so they should get a correct knowledge for.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it is an age where in the adolescence the brains are not yet completely wired. So there is a difference between a child's brain, an adolescent brain, and an adult brain, where the power of discretion is not there. So that is why you see the children or the adolescents taking more part in high-risk behaviors. You know, so if that is going to happen, we might as well provide them with the knowledge to kind of guard themselves against any problems that they can get into.
Yeah. So in a dental practice, what we have seen during this menstruation period, the patient usually complains of, you know, have a crank sores or a swelling of salivary glands. So what we see the cases that way. So the next important phase is like pregnancy. So for, you know, as a dentist, we always advise that before planning the pregnancy, you should do the dental checkup, because dental treatment during pregnancy is quite compromised. We can't prescribe, you know, medication, then we can't take an X-ray, we have to take a consent from gynecologist. So what are the crucial healthy habits women should adopt when planning for pregnancy or during pregnancy? What we should do?
Yeah. So I think the foundations of health are laid down in childhood as well as puberty and adolescence. So I think pre-pregnancy, if the woman has as close to ideal body mass index, or you know, the correct weight to start with pre-pregnancy, that is the ideal situation. She should change her health habit, eating habits, in case they are not very, you know, we'll of course discuss about the healthy eating. But that is important. Being physically active is very important. Also, they need to have a great understanding about the time period of fertility, so that they can plan the pregnancy, and it doesn't happen like, you know, it's just happen without planning. Yeah. That's not a great way, because finally when a woman becomes pregnant, she needs to be physically as well as mentally prepared.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's a big responsibility in terms of everything, so they should be aware of about the fertile period. Other thing we always start is prenatal vitamins, which is folic acid supplements, B12 supplements, which is a common deficiency is there. And it's very, very important in the early stage of organogenesis for the baby. So prenatal vitamins are very important. If they are not completely vaccinated, you know, against say rubella and things like that, all those things have to be completed before they plan a pregnancy. And whatever things they do pre-pregnancy, the same habits have to be followed throughout the pregnancy for the pregnancy to be very healthy, and to avoid risk of complications such as gestational diabetes or hypertension. All those things, I think your routine lifestyles play a big role, in terms of which also indirectly affects your mental health. So if you're regularly exercising, if you're eating a healthy diet, it will give, you know, better mental health as well.
Absolutely.
So I think that everything, looking at the entire aspect is very important.
Yeah, as a dental surgeon, what we have seen that abundance of estrogen and progesterone during pregnancy can lead to the pregnancy gingivitis. And if it is not treated, it lead to like a preterm baby or a low birth weight baby and a preterm pregnancy. Yes. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, so basically during pregnancy it's a immunocompromised stage, because half of the fetus is is foreign, like it's coming from the paternal side. That is why the woman's body is immunologically compromised. So she is prone to infection from anywhere. Okay, may it be from the respiratory tract, or the oral cavity is a very important site which may get missed as a focus of infection, and these infections then spread through blood. Once they are in the blood, then they will reach everywhere. So one susceptible place where they will reach is around the baby, which we call as the chorion, or we say chorion amnionitis, where the environment of the baby gets infected, and there is secretion of chemicals which are called as prostaglandins, which cause uterine contractions. So that is the mechanism by which any infection, may it be from the oral cavity or it can even be from the urinary tract. So both these things we have to be very careful about to identify and treat them in time, so that they don't reach the reproductive organs and harm the baby in that term. Because we know that though we have huge advances in neonatal care, still it's so expensive to have the baby come out early, and a lot of things can get compromised. So we want the pregnancy to go to as close to term as possible.
And what about the postpartum? How we should take care of that?
So postpartum, of course, the same healthy habits are very important. What happens is, just like puberty, the pregnancy and postpartum period is also associated with a lot of hormone changes. So we have increased estrogen, progesterone throughout the pregnancy, and immediately after the woman delivers, these hormones come down, and that is one cause of mood changes or postpartum depression. Of course, there may be certain factors which are already there, predisposing factors in terms of genetics, or a predisposition to kind of mood disorders, but identification of that is very important. And I think with the help of a healthy lifestyle in terms of good diet and good exercise, and of course try to breastfeed as much as possible. All these things will help in a healthy weight loss and regaining the shape.
And a nice bonding with the with child also. Both
the things happen, and it also many women tend to put on weight during pregnancy, and maybe not everything goes off. But if you are careful about all these things, the mood remains well. There is not distorted body image kind of thing. So all that contributes towards a better postpartum health.
So next phase of life cycle is like a menopause. So what we see, mainly they complain about in the dental practice that dry mouth, this lack of salivation, and saliva is so much important for the oral cavity. And the second, we have the osteoporosis, that if the generalized bone loss is there, then the patient have a dental problem also later on. So how can women prepare for the onset of menopause to minimize the impact on their daily life?
So, since we are talking about hormones, just as the phase of puberty was a change of hormone in terms of rising levels of estrogen, and when the woman started menstruating, the progesterone hormone came in. The perimenopause, which can start as early as 10 to 15 years before actual menopause, these fluctuation in hormones in terms of first lowering of progesterone, which causes effects like insomnia, sleeplessness, mood changes, and also slowly the decreasing levels of estrogen. Now these are the ones which are responsible for dryness of the skin, dryness of the mouth, dryness of the vagina. All this is because of low estrogen levels. And this sometimes coupled with stress, which is always there. So if there are rising cortisol levels, they kind of also interfere with whatever formation of little progesterone is there. Progesterone is like our calming hormone. Once that reduces is when women go through a lot of irritability. And kind of, many of the women say that I feel I'm a changed person. My family says, what has happened to you suddenly? That is what the conversation is always there. So I think it's very important to understand what changes you are going through. In this, diet is very important because there are certain precursors of the hormone which you get from the dietary factors. So the diet needs to be modified when you go into menopause. The estrogen also helps in bone generation. So as long as we are not menopausal, our level of osteoporosis or bones becoming softer is less, which suddenly increases soon after menopause.
Yes.
So as much as the hormones are important, I think keeping the muscles massed well, which can happen one with keeping protein levels high in the diet. You know, that is very, very important. Eating good quality protein, eating good quantity of protein, and exercising.
Yeah, muscle strengthening exercise.
Muscle strengthening
Yeah.
are extremely important as you age.
Okay.
And that is going to also support the bone. So bone health is
Bone
not
health.
only dependent on the hormone or only on protein, but also so much on exercise.
Exercise.
So I think once that we are very mindful about, and exercise also, you know, improves the mood. Exercise is supposed to be as effective as antidepressants.
Absolutely.
In
Yes.
in clinical depression. So I think that is something which we have to be very mindful about and kind of make it a part of our routine. If you do that,
yes.
then we are looking at more of prevention, and we are not looking at, because it's not that every woman will suffer from.
Yeah, so every case has a different,
Every case,
how they face the
every
situation.
case is different.
Different.
You know, we need to also get tools in our armamentarium to combat stress. So that is where, you know, meditative practices, yoga, or kind of nurturing certain hobbies, you know, because they are the ones like getting back close to nature, gardening, painting, whatever you never had time to do it when children were young or you were too busy with your career.
Yeah.
This is the time to
And having a good social circle, friend circle.
Absolutely. I think the friends part is very crucial,
Yeah.
because for women, the way they respond to stress, they tend to, you know, it's like tend and befriend is what they say. You know, so men take it like stress and they can have outbursts and anger and things, and women feel very comfortable with their own girls group and, you know, sharing, and that I think that is very important for women in this stage of, especially of menopause.
That's right. So this is good. Okay, so you, Dr. Deepali, you have done that lifestyle medicine. You are specialized medicine specialist. So just give me the brief, or tell me the pillars of the lifestyle medicine.
Before I go on to that, let me also complete few checkups that these women need to do around menopause. So many of the reproductive cancers can be screened. Okay, so we have screening for cervical cancer. So prevention was the vaccine. The screening for cervical cancer can be done with HPV testing or the pap smear or liquid-based cytology. We can screen for breast cancer. One is a cell breast examination to be done monthly from the age of 14 onwards. We teach girls how to check their own breast, and the screening mammographies are usually done after the age of 50. So that is what you can do to pick up breast cancer, early detection of breast cancer. We don't have very excellent tools to detect endometrial cancer or ovarian cancer, but generally a pelvic ultrasound can pick up endometrial thickening, and a CA-125 level can sometimes can detect ovarian cancer in case there is a mass. So having said that, I think because this audience needs to know that about women's health, we can come to lifestyle medicine, which is actually, it's like old wine in a new bottle. So it's something that we've been practicing all along, you know, all our scriptures and, you know, Indian traditions or many old cultures talk about holistic health. So in lifestyle medicine, basically it has 6 pillars in which it is evidence-based intervention in terms of nutrition, physical activity, sleep regulation, stress management, avoidance of toxic substances, and social connections. To prevent, treat, and reverse chronic diseases. So these are the main pillars of lifestyle medicine. And I think before doing any pharmaceutical or surgical intervention for any chronic lifestyle disease, of course, We need all these things for acute conditions, maybe infective in nature, traumatic in nature. We have very, very good tools in conventional medicine. But as far as chronic lifestyle diseases are concerned, I think we fall back a little bit on holistic outlook, and we tend to do more of symptomatic care, and we don't address the root causes of diseases, which this discipline addresses very well. And in terms of nutrition, it is very, very important that we eat real food. I already mentioned that, which means that food which is predominantly a lot plant-based, because plants are from where you will get the fiber. Okay? Fiber is very important for us to keep our toxins cleared on time, as well as they are very important to the millions and trillions of bacteria and viruses and fungus that coexist with us in all our cavities. You know it for oral health, in our gut, in our skin, everywhere. So fiber is very important, which is available only in plant products. So even though we have good quantity of good quality protein in animal products, along with that it's very important to consume enough amount of plant foods which are rich in protein as well. So that, from point of view of nutrition, that is important as a positive thing, and we want to avoid ultra processed foods, things which are coming through factories which are typically
all packed food,
typically they are high,
food,
they are typically high in sugar, salt, or unhealthy fats.
Unhealthy fat, absolutely.
These three things are there, and which our brains are wired to have that, because when we evolved, all this was not abundant.
There.
It was not abundant. So whenever we see it, we feel attracted towards it. Because genetically we have not evolved that much compared to how much our food has changed in the last, say, 500 years. It's happened too much, too quickly. Whereas our genetically and evolutionary, it's happened over thousands of years. And that is
and carbonated drinks, all soft drinks, we are addicted.
They are very high in sugar, and they are very, you must be, you know that it's very responsible for all the dental care.
Yes, absolutely.
And also all these foods, because they are processed, the thing of chewing is not there. And because of which, I think even the jaws are becoming
narrower. So nowadays we are getting more impacted third molar, we are getting that way.
Exactly. I'm sure a time will come when we evolve not to have
it.
Yeah. So that is important. Physical activity in terms of a good combination and a smart combination, because excessive exercise can also be stressful to the body. So we need a good balance between some kind of aerobic exercise that you like, muscle strengthening exercises, and flexibility, because all that is important throughout your life. I think it's important. It becomes even more important as you age, because of course there is a lot of wear and tear in the body, so we have to be more mindful. Sleep is very crucial. It is largely ignored. We need 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, and we need it according to the circadian rhythm. That means we need to get up when the sun rises, and we need to kind of slow down and sleep by the time the sun sets, which sometimes doesn't happen.
Nowadays late, all they're on mobile.
Yeah, and there is nothing like a sleep debt. That means you cannot sleep very little through the week and then try to compensate on the weekend. That doesn't go well with the body. And you will have some symptoms, which will be reflected in your health. Stress is a very, very important factor, and I think it's so sad that even in childhood, you see evidence of stress. And it's a very unfortunate thing that people don't give much importance to the holistic overall growth of the child.
But nowadays in the school also mental health, now they are
because we are having so many problems. But it's important that along with academics, the child has to be very, very active physically, needs to sleep on time, because now we have the social media and the video games and television.
All temptations, all temptations are there.
So I think certain boundaries have to be drawn by the parents, by which, and then you have to create good habits. I think that is going to be very, very important. Avoidance of toxic substances, we all know. Alcohol in no amount is really safe. Of course, you can make certain choices. Informed choices is what you can make. And especially pre-pregnancy, definitely complete avoidance of alcohol
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
tobacco. These two things are very, very important. And the last pillar, which is social connections, basically it is so important that it is the single most important factor for longevity in humans, you know. And we need people around us, and we need good healthy relationships, and that of course is going to play a big role in our mental health and our overall health as well. So that is lifestyle medicine in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely, it's like a complete holistic approach we can have, you know.
yes. And all these things we have to institute all these changes before we turn to pharmaceutical
Absolutely.
therapy for any kind of problems that we have, because these are the things which are going to be sustainable and they're going to be benefiting us lifelong. When we make small changes, they can give big effects on our overall health.
So, dear colleagues, we have seen that certain lifestyle changes can create a great impact on your life. We should inculcate such healthy habits. So, on the behalf of Women Dental Council and Abhaya, thank you, Dr. Deepali Prabha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi.
Yeah,
It was
thanks.
a pleasure speaking
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
pleasure to be with you. Thanks.